Hey, I'm Jenny Davis, and welcome to the ABA Journal's 10 Questions Live, our monthly conversation with innovators, interrupters, and just plain interesting lawyers. I'm here today with Virginia lawyer Philip Stone. He's the president of Sweetbriar College, and when he arrived on campus to start his job last summer, Sweetbriar was closed. The former leadership of the 115-year-old women's college had decided to close the school, citing endowment issues and also low enrollment. Now, the alumni of the college had banded together to save the school. They raised money and they filed suit and were ultimately successful. But by that time, the students had left, as had the faculty and the staff. So President Stone's first order of business when he started his new job was to get the school restarted. He did that, and with amazing results. Now, Sweetbriar is well into its second year of its second life, and enrollment is up. Fundraising is up, and also there's some incredible new opportunities on the horizon for Sweetbriar women, including more engineering programs and also international opportunities. People who know Philip Stone were not surprised by this success. He's had an accomplished 24-year career in law, and he's had myriad leadership roles, including the presidency of the Virginia State Bar Association. He also has experience in turning around small schools. He spent 16 years at the helm of a small Virginia school, and during that time, he doubled enrollment and also added more than $40 million to the endowment. Mr. Stone is now leaving Sweetbriar College. He hasn't decided what he's going to do. We'll ask him about that. He may go back to his law firm, where his 3 children, who are lawyers, are holding down the fort, or he may retire completely. But one thing is for sure, his leadership experience and his knowledge have really resonated with ABA Journal readers. And we have a record number of reader questions. So we're going to dedicate this entire time today to getting answers to those questions. But 2 quick things. Number 1, if you would like to read the print version of 10 questions, it is archived at abajournal.com, and it's in the September issue of the magazine. And if you are tuning into us live and you have a question for President Stone that you'd like us to try to answer on the air, you can submit that to 10questionslive at abajournal.com. We're just going to launch right into it. President Stone, thank you so much for joining us today for ABA Journal's 10 Questions Live.
Thank you, Jenny. It's good to be with you, and it's going to be fun.
Cool. Well, our first reader question is, how did you know you were on the right track with Sweetbriar? Was it an aha moment, or was it more of a gradual thing?
Well, I don't think there was an aha moment. I think starting in a crisis, you really don't have the luxury to be anticipating a particular pivot point or success point. You're putting off fires. You're trying to survive. You're trying to get alive, basically. And so the pace is so frenzied that you hardly have time to notice when you've passed some moment that turns out later to have been momentous. When I got here, as you just described, without faculty, staff, students, food service, junior abroad program transferred, writing program transferred, I did not know one person on the campus, and all the staff had just been fired. So we had to be open for school in just 6 weeks. So getting open for school was the first landmark of our success. If we got that, that would be a miracle, but it was critical. We had to get there. And then we had to have a fabulous year fiscally in our first year, because we were coming out of a deep hole with severance payments, legal fees, insurance premiums to be paid, all the cost, the diminished enrollment with the declined tuition. And so that was another landmark. So the first landmark was for the alumni to be able to save the college, which they did. The second was to get it open in 6 weeks. And the other, frankly, was to have a great year, which we did, closed on June 30th.
Now, more of a strategy question. Is there a way that an institution, or maybe even any kind of an organization, can activate its membership or its alumni base without having a crisis?
Well, I sure don't recommend a crisis like ours to energize the base, but what it does, and I think we need to learn from it, and you're asking the right question, is what other than this kind of crisis would generate this kind of passion? For example, a small college that had never been larger than 700 students, the alumni of that college not only stepped forward to save the college with all types of advocacy and counsel and interest, they provided resources. They gave $28 million in pledges in just 100 days, turned that into $12 million in cash with at the time school was opening to get the transfer of governance. And they have continued. As I've gone to visit all our alumni across the country, here we are more than a year from that time, and we've had great successes, and they feel like we're going to make it, but their passion has not waned. And so I look back on that and say, what do you do to model that? One thing is you've got to have, I think, whether it's in a law firm or a corporate organization or a nonprofit organization, school, library, whatever, I think you got to have a mission that really seems noble, something that really matters. You know, in a law firm, we're more than people who just make a living. We're more than people who just charge fees and take money home. We like to think there's some nobility in our professions, whatever they are, and that we're doing things that are for the betterment of humanity, and that we're doing things in a certain way with civility, professionalism, integrity that make a good impression on our community. Same thing here. We had a noble mission, and the near collapse, the near closing, simply brought out the memory of that for the alumni to say, this college is too important to save. You can't just say that it's based on nostalgia. That doesn't produce this continuing passion, this selfless contributions of money and time. It's got to be a noble mission that is an active, dynamic feeling. So we're not just going to do a museum to the nostalgia of the past. Oh, I went to school there. It's got to be saved. I want to be able to go home. I want to be able to see it. We have to say, how does it remain active and dynamic for new generations of women? And what are our core values? Will it even be just for women? Will it be something else? So we checked in on what I call a noble mission. I think the next thing is, and it's analogous to the World War II stories of the bands of brothers, people in combat who bonded immediately, not knowing each other sometimes. I think here there was this sense of bonding that, can we trigger that without a crisis? I really think we can. I think getting our membership engaged, making sure they understand they're needed, communicating better, let them know what's going on. In this case, the alumni were caught so flat-footed by the closing announcement. They had no idea it was in the offing. The college had an endowment larger than most private colleges in the United States. And yet, all of a sudden, they're closing. So the shock of it meant that there had been very little communications for the alumni to anticipate the closing, meaning that not enough information was being circulated. So getting our membership engaged, let them know what's important and checking in with them to make sure they agree, and finding ways for them to work, to participate, to be engaged is really critical. Otherwise, you have a top-down leadership group, and then they wonder why the stockholders or the constituents or the membership will not follow them around or lead or help them. And so I would say all those are important in terms of how we treat our members and get them involved.
Now, it's one thing to get the college up and running again, but now I would think that second tier has launched, where you have to keep it competitive for the future, and have it stand out within, the audience, or within, I guess, the marketplace of other small colleges. Segue into a reader question, was there something in particular that you pushed to have at Sweetbriar, or you wanted in particular to bring to Sweetbriar to make it competitive with other colleges?
As you noted in your opening comments, I really had retired because I'd been a lawyer for 24 years, and then I was a college president for 16, and I retired. I really was not looking for a job. I had declined to take interim appointments as a president or do anything like that. And so I really felt like I was retired, even though I was working in a firm with my 3 children. I certainly was working at a different pace than I had worked most of my life. I was shocked when I heard the announcement Sweetbriar was closing. The reason I stepped up was not because I wanted a job, or frankly, even because I just wanted a challenge of doing something that would be fun but hard, although that does appeal to me. I have such a firm belief in the value of small residential liberal arts colleges. It's what I experienced. I had that kind of college when I was president. And I knew Sweetbriar's reputation, even though I did not know anyone here. And the difference between Sweetbriar and what I'd experienced was this was a women's college. And I've had to learn to understand the value of that since coming here. So I felt that liberal arts education generally was threatened by this. If a college with a great reputation, a really strong liberal arts curriculum, a terrific faculty, a large endowment would go under, what's that mean for the rest of the liberal arts colleges who struggle to find strength and stability across the country? So I stepped forward because I believed in the mission. I was here 3 weeks before I heard the word salary or contract, so it certainly wasn't to be enticed to come for a contract or money, because I believe in it. So I mentioned that because what was here was important to save. It was not to come in and say, how can we convert this into something else that will be more profitable? If we can't identify a noble mission, commit ourselves to it without condition and qualification, and succeed, be prepared to go under. You don't need to change into something that doesn't fit you just to stay alive. I mean, this college has a certain purpose. So first of all, we kind of had conversations, even in all the frenzy of opening up, with the faculty and the alumni and the staff and friends of the college about, do we have a consensus about those values? Small, liberal arts, residential college for women. We did. We said, all right, what else do we believe in? We have one of 2 engineering programs on women's college campuses in America. That's a real asset for us. So we said, we want to make it even stronger because engineering and STEM courses right now are increasingly needed and are very popular. So we want to be stronger in computer science and the STEM courses in our engineering program. But just to tell you how frail we were at that point, a week before I was even president, I learned that the head of the engineering department was leaving. I called him. He did not know me. Did this through a telephone call. I said, I desperately need you to stay. I'm coming in as president. Please stay. He said, I have no department. I have no students. I have a family. And I said, I promise you we'll get you paid. So I knew we had that much money. And he was good enough to stay. And we found out later that we would have forfeited an endowment gift of $3 million conditioned on our having the engineering program.
Wow.
If we had not stayed open. I didn't even know that. Now, after that very tough renewal of the engineering program, we've been out to Silicon Valley and we've worked with some of the large companies like Facebook and Google to talk about how we could do partnerships to make our program more visible, how they might be able to give us counsel about how we can make our program fit the market needs today, how they might provide speakers, how we might jointly provide conferences, particularly for young women, all of which brings me to the point that we want to emphasize our strong traditional liberal arts, but we also want to talk a lot about our engineering and our computer science. We are not going to become a pre-professional school. We're glad to get people ready to go to professional school. That's always been part of our history. But we believe strong in liberal arts. People need to learn to read and write. There's a certain body of knowledge that people ought to have to be educated. We still believe that. So we want even engineers to have that. So we will do engineering. We're also going to look at 5th-year master's programs for women. Our campus here is 3,200 acres. It's extraordinarily beautiful. When the rankings used to come out about beautiful campuses, we would be anywhere from 1st to 5th. I mean, we've always rated highly on beautiful campuses. Our students want to stay here 5th year. They're going somewhere else to graduate school. They'd much rather take a course here. So we're going to look at 5th-year master's programs for students who can just remain a 5th year. We also are recruiting more aggressively in other countries. I personally have already been to China to talk to people in the Ministry of Education, and we're already starting to recruit Chinese students, and we're recruiting students from other countries. We have 7 countries represented this semester already, and at the time of closing, we had almost no international presence. And that was another reason some of us were so disappointed as we look back on it with the decision to close, saying, how have you really tested the market for enrollment if you have almost no international students and haven't really been trying to recruit them? So those are among the things we're going to do with the 3,200 acre campus. You can imagine what we can do with environmental science and with all types of sustainability programs. So we feel really confident in the future, and we're talking now about not about our rescue story, which is a miracle. It's a fabulous story. The book needs to be made, written, and the movie made. But I think we've moved on. So we're trying new things to make sure that we take advantage of those core values that we have that consensus to protect, continue to adapt them to new generations of needs and students, and then make sure that we have an enrollment that is large enough for us to be stronger in the future.
We had touched on transferable skills in our print conversation about skills that you have as a lawyer, and how, if there are any of those skills that transfer to academia, into leadership in that realm. And we had a reader say, could you please be more specific? So
right.
What specific skills?
Right. One of the things I found that helped me.
Yeah, what are you finding crosses over?
In my first presidency, one of the immediate first times I saw that I had transferable skills as a lawyer was when there was an appeal of a disciplinary case by a student who came in and gave me a story that was really so far-fetched. I said to myself, that reminds me of some things my clients used to tell me.
Maybe that's a parenting skill.
That may be a parenting skill too, but it also reminded me, we learn quickly as lawyers, if we do court work, particularly maybe any other kind of work, there are always two sides. Make sure you don't jump too quickly into a set of facts before you do an investigation. But the transferable skills, I think one of the core skills for lawyers, I think if we are any good as lawyers, we learn, even in law school, and particularly in our practice, how to think analytically. And that means that when a client comes in, a lot of times they don't know what the cause of action is. They do not know what the law is. They know they have something as a grievance, or they have a business goal they want to meet. And the lawyer can't just take every fact, every anecdote, every interest they have and chase it and spend hours on it. We have to sort it out. And we'll say, I can't use this, I can use that, I want to know more about this, I want the documents for this. And as we do that, we are thinking analytically for clients who are tempted to just have a whole bucket full of facts and anecdotes. Running a college or any other business really requires that. Because you can imagine, as we're reopening with all the circumstances I've described, we didn't have time for everything that was coming at me. There are people who have all kinds of ideas about how you can make money, how you could go out and get more money, how you can get more students. But you have to be focused, and you have to say, this I can use, that I can't use. I think that's a lawyer skill. Other people have it, but I think lawyers are trained in that. I think that helps. I think learning to work with people, whether it's an adversary or other lawyers in litigation or in business transactions, where you try to get to yes, where you try to get to something that works. When you're trying to settle a case, it's kind of silly to go in and say, I want 100% of my case, my benefit, none for you. I think all that helps on a college campus. You're working with faculty and students and donors and friends, so you want to do that. To the extent that our lawyer skills include some practice with public speaking, writing memos, doing things that involve communications, I think it really helps, particularly as a college president. But in any management position, when you're trying to communicate either with colleagues or people off the premises. So I thought a lot of the things I learned as a lawyer were very, very helpful to me.
Do you think it's possible to save a flagging law firm in a similar way to saving a failing school?
I do. I think I practiced in a firm that eventually was had 30 some lawyers. It was not huge by national standards, but for a small city, it was the leading firm, and a very old firm, and had a great clientele. The morale was terrific. And I think as we always thought that by everyone pitching in, supporting that good culture and morale, that the product meant that we always produce more than the component parts. For some reason, it looked like every year our product was greater than the component pieces. And I think it all had to do with the morale and the culture of the place. So yeah, all for one, one for all is a good mentality in a law firm. I don't know how big it is. When people are seeing it only as an opportunity to make a living, I think that culture starts getting pervasive, that a lawyer may be seen as no more than a cash register. What were your billable hours? How much did you bring in? Are you covering your income? Are you doing this or that? All that's important. You got to make a living. You have to pay the bills. But you need to be practicing with people you trust and respect, And I think if you can build that culture, you're going to find a practice area that's going to work. It may be that you can't just say without arbitrarily, okay, I think I'll get into the securities business and not know anything about securities. But you will find a practice area that will work. And I have been amazed over time to see how many really popular, influential, and really successful lawyers have done so much with their people skills, their ability to work with others, their ability to communicate, their ability to explain what they do know, whether they know as much as someone else or not. And so I would say that law firms ought to be able to survive good teamwork, noble mission, and everybody pitching in for the welfare of the whole group.
Well, you definitely make 70-something look like the new 40-something. You're always on the go. We had a reader ask, do you have any advice for lawyers on sustaining their passion for not only the practice, but for working?
Well, I really am not one of those people who says, oh, I'm going to die with my boots on, or I want to see if I can work till the last minute. I really don't have any of those concerns. When I stepped down as president of the college before, it was not because I was tired. It was not because I'd lost energy. I loved what I did, and I think people liked having me there, and so it was a good match. But I thought that I ought to look for the timing that's best for the institution. And if things are going really well, things are strong, and then you step down. If the institution has a glitch in transition, or if it needs some time to get the new person acclimated to provide leadership, they are not fragile, and so they don't get hurt badly by needing a little time to let the new president learn to know the donors, or to know the climate or the culture. And so I felt like that was a good time for the institution. I certainly was not, as I said, was not weary, but I have other interests. I have a home in Germany. I speak German. I go to Germany. I love Germany, and I enjoy that. And so I wanted to spend more time there, and I did after I retired. I have some interest in Abraham Lincoln.
I know. I want it. Before we run out of time, we've got to talk about that.
So I love the study of Abraham Lincoln. I've given hundreds of speeches probably on Abraham Lincoln, and have special interest in that. So I want to write and read and speak on Lincoln. I have those interests. I loved working with my children. I told them, when they asked me if I would form a family firm with them, I said, I would love to do it, but because I love being a lawyer. I really respect the law and the profession. And I said, here's the deal. I've worked nights and weekends all my life. I'm not going to do it anymore. Now I've worked long enough. And so I will be glad to participate. I'll be glad to practice, but I'm not going to work nights and weekends anymore. Wow. Those first few weeks here at Sweetbriar, I thought, what did I do to myself? I mean, it looked like it was 24/7. So I do not feel driven that I've got to do something like this. In fact, as you know already, I've already announced that I'll step down next summer, because they need to have a new president who can help envision the future. We go past rescue to a new vision. And I'm not the one to do that at my age. I'm 74. And what we'll do is have a new person come in to help dream the new dream while we have all this passion to go. My job was to help get us out of the hole, get us back on our feet, and get us going. I think that's going well. I'm proud of that. But I have no desire to step into another situation and say, let me see what additional hard work I can do. I've really done a lot. I've done it a lot during my life.
I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to try to sneak in these last two questions. First is, do you have any advice for lawyers looking to change areas of law, or maybe transition into an entirely new career?
I do, and I say it with a deep affection for the profession. I really enjoyed being a lawyer. My best friends were my law partners. And I shed tears when I left the law firm to become a lawyer. I didn't apply, to become a college president. I didn't apply for a college presidency. The college came to me and asked me, and at first I said, absolutely not. And then I agreed to do it. But it, in a way, it broke my heart to leave my best friends to do that. I loved my experience as a college president. I love being at Sweetbriar. These are wonderful students, faculty, alumni. I love this place. But I think lawyers ought to be able to say, even if it's you have the love for the profession and you've enjoyed the profession, just as we can take a new case or a new business transaction and move to a new client, we can do new things with our lives. And it may be to be in a nonprofit organization, it may be in a commercial organization, maybe the government agency. I think lawyers should always be open to the possibility that something is beckoning them to look at it and be open to it. There's no reason why they should be intimidated from starting from scratch and learning how to do it, because they have good skills to use. I've already alluded to those. And so I would urge lawyers to be open to it. I think if you grab at things because you've become tired of being a lawyer, kind of exhausted from the practice, there's always a risk that you'll pick something that's anything but law. I think what you want to do is to say, no, I love being a lawyer. I see the value of being a lawyer, but I'm also anxious to try new things and do it with a very positive approach.
So we have come to our last question, which is Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Can you tell us, this was such a cool thing, and I didn't have any room in the print edition to include it, but please tell us about your connection to the Lincoln family and what you do to honor that connection.
We live in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia when I'm not at Sweetbriar, and there Abraham Lincoln's ancestors moved from Pennsylvania before the American Revolution. So his grandparents lived there. His great-grandparents are buried there. His father was born there. Most people don't know those connections. They pick it up in Kentucky, which is where his ancestors moved when they left Virginia. We own the farm. Now my son owns it. I did own it, where the Lincolns lived. And so that got me interested. So as I became more interested in Lincoln and did research, I said to a friend of mine one day, we really ought to do something to honor these connections. He said, what do you suggest? I said, let's do a ceremony. What kind of ceremony? Well, let's go down to the Lincoln Cemetery in our community where 5 generations of Lincolns by the name of Lincoln are buried. And I said, you read something to me, I'll read something to you. This was a judge, by the way. And we agreed to do it. 5 or 6 friends went with us on Lincoln's birthday. Now, February the 12th has never been a good day for weather in Virginia, I can tell you that. And we seem to just attract bad weather on February 12th. I've called it Stonewall Jackson's revenge. So we went down, and now we've done that 41 years. And
wow.
That got me started a lot into research and speaking and so forth. So I've served on a good number of Lincoln commissions. And a few years ago, when there were when there was a dedication of a Lincoln statue in Richmond, Virginia, and I saw the people reacting with such things as placards saying, long live John Wilkes Booth. Lincoln deserved to die. He was a tyrant. I said, you know, our nostalgia sometimes can become perverse. And so I started the Lincoln Society of Virginia. It turns out to be the only one in the South. And we do a symposium every year to try to interpret the Civil War and Lincoln from a more mature point of view and praise him for saving the Union, emancipating slaves, and for the greatness he represents. So even though I've gotten some hate mail from places all over the South for honoring Abraham Lincoln and Stonewall Jackson country, my neighbors and friends in the Shenandoah Valley urge me on, give great support. We just have a fine time doing that.
And is there a website or a way that people can learn more about it?
There's a website for Lincoln Society of Virginia. We don't have a lot on it because we're all volunteers. We don't have any staff or anything. It's
Well,
Lincoln
now you're
Society
gonna
of
have
Virginia.
some more time.
We'll take try that anyway. Yeah.
You can add web skills to your long resume.
Right. And that's right. And then since Lincoln was a lawyer, I'm always able to refer to Lincoln's lawyer skills too. I think they did help him as president. I've said that in several speeches. I think he was such a good lawyer. I think it really helped him as a president.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us today for the ABA Journal's 10 Questions Live. And to everyone out there, if you enjoyed this conversation, please join us again next month on Thursday, October 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be talking with former NSA Chief Counsel Raj Day. So thank you so much again, and have a great day and be well.